The silver ship moved silently through the darkness of space, its hull gleaming under the light of distant stars. Inside, Commander Thrix stood before a large viewing screen that showed Earth spinning slowly below them, his tall, thin body cast a long shadow across the bridge as he watched the blue and green planet with interest. "Such a peaceful world," he said softly to his crew. His voice carried the musical tone that all Altoni possessed. "Look at those beautiful farms and small towns. The humans seem to live in perfect harmony with their planet." Science Officer Kala nodded from her station. Like all Altani, she had pale, almost see-through skin and large silver eyes that reflected light. "Our observations over the past 50 years confirm this, Commander. They are a gentle species. They grow crops, tend to animals, and live in small communities. We have seen no signs of violence or conflict." Thrix smiled, showing his small white teeth. "Perfect. The Galactic Federation will be pleased to welcome such a peaceful race. Prepare the diplomatic vessel. It is time to make first contact." Altani had been watching Earth for decades, but their scanning methods were limited. They could only observe small areas at a time, and they had focused their attention on rural farming areas and quiet towns. They had completely missed the busy cities, the military bases, and any signs of human conflict. To them, Earth looked like a world of farmers and shepherds. 3 days later, the meeting took place on Harmony Station, a neutral space facility that floated between Earth and Mars. The station was built like a giant wheel, spinning slowly to create artificial gravity. Its white walls and soft lighting were designed to make all species feel comfortable. Ambassador Reed walked through the station corridors with confident steps. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes, wearing the blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic service. Behind him walked General Hayes, a strong-looking woman with short brown hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She wore her military dress uniform with pride. "Remember," Reed said quietly to Hayes as they approached the meeting room, "we want to make a good impression. These aliens have been watching us for years, but this is our first real chance to show them who we are." Hayes nodded. "I understand, Ambassador, but I still think we should be careful. We know very little about them." The meeting room was large and circular, with a table in the center. When the doors opened, Reed got his first look at the aliens. Commander Thrix stood gracefully, his movements flowing like water. His pale skin seemed to glow in the soft light, and his large eyes studied the humans with curiosity. "Welcome, beings of Earth," Thrix said in perfect English, though his voice had a strange singing quality. "I am Commander Thrix of the Altoni people. We represent the Galactic Federation, and we have been watching your beautiful world with great interest." Reed stepped forward and offered his hand. Thrix looked at it curiously before carefully taking it in his own thin fingers. "I am Ambassador Reed, and this is General Hayes. We represent the people of Earth, and we are honored to meet you." Handshake was awkward. Thrix's hand was cold and felt fragile, like it might break if Reed squeezed too hard. The alien pulled his hand back quickly, as if the contact was uncomfortable. "Please, sit," Thrix said, gesturing to chairs that had been specially made for human bodies. "We have much to discuss." For the next hour, the conversation went smoothly. Thrix explained that the Galactic Federation was made up of 47 different species, all dedicated to peace and cooperation. He spoke of trade agreements, cultural exchange, and shared knowledge. "Your people seem to live in such harmony," Thrix said, his silver eyes bright with admiration. "Our observations show small communities working together, caring for the land, living simple lives. It is exactly what the Federation values." Reed and Hayes exchanged glances. Reed decided to be honest. "Commander, I think there might be some things about humanity that you don't fully understand. We are not as simple as we might appear." Thrix tilted his head, a gesture that seemed curious. "What do you mean?" "Well," Reed said carefully, "humans are complex. We have many different ways of living, many different cultures. Some of us do live in small farming communities, but many of us live in large cities with millions of people. We have industry, technology, art, sports, sports." Science Officer Kala asked from across the table. What are sports? Hayes leaned forward. Sports are games we play for fun and competition. They help us stay healthy and bring communities together. Thrix's eyes lit up with interest. Games? How wonderful. We would very much like to see these games. The Federation believes that recreational activities tell us much about a species. Reed smiled. Of course, we would be happy to show you some of our sports. We have many different types. The next day, the aliens gathered in the station's main viewing area. Reed had arranged for several Earth broadcasts to be shown on the large screens. He started with what he thought would be safe and enjoyable for the peaceful aliens. This is chess, Reed explained, as the screen showed two people quietly moving pieces on a board. It is a game of strategy and thinking. Thrix watched with obvious pleasure. How civilized. Such careful thought, such patience. This is exactly what we expected from your people. Next came tennis. The aliens watched as two humans hit a ball back and forth across a net. They seemed to enjoy the skill and athleticism. Involved, beautiful, Kala said softly. Such grace and control. These humans are quite talented. Reed felt confident as he moved to the next sport. This is called football. It is very popular on Earth. The screen filled with the image of American football players crashing into each other. The aliens watched, in growing horror as large men in armor tackled each other to the ground. The crowd in the stadium cheered loudly as players collided with tremendous force. Thrix's pale skin seemed to grow even whiter. His large eyes widened in shock. They are attacking each other, he whispered.
No.
Reed said quickly. It's just a game. They have rules and referees and ... But the aliens were not listening. On the screen, a player was hit hard and fell to the ground. The camera showed a close-up of his face, dirt and sweat mixing together. The crowd roared with excitement. Kala made a sound that might have been a scream. Look at the audience. They enjoy watching violence, Hayes tried to explain. It's not violence, it's competition. The players choose to play, and they wear protection. Quickly changed to another sport, hoping to calm the aliens. This is boxing. It's also very popular. The screen showed two fighters in a ring trading punches while a crowd cheered. One fighter's nose was bleeding, but he kept fighting. The aliens watched in complete horror as the boxers hit each other again and again. Thrix stood up so fast that his chair fell over. His musical voice was now high with panic. They fight for entertainment. They hurt each other and others watch for pleasure. The final sport Reed showed was mixed martial arts. The aliens watched two fighters grapple on the ground, using techniques that looked brutal to their peaceful eyes. When one fighter was declared the winner, he raised his arms in victory while the crowd went wild. By now all the aliens were standing, their pale faces filled with terror. Commander Thrix's hands were shaking as he pointed at the screen. We have made a terrible mistake, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. These are not peaceful farmers. These are warriors. These are killers who fight for sport, Reed tried desperately to explain. But the aliens were already backing toward the door. Please, you don't understand. These are just games. We have rules, safety measures, ... But Commander Thrix was not listening. His silver eyes were wide with fear as he looked at Reed and Hayes as if seeing them for the first time. Your people enjoy violence. You celebrate combat. You cheer when others are hurt. The aliens left the meeting room quickly, their flowing movements now jerky with panic. Reed and Hayes were left alone, staring at the empty chairs and wondering what had just gone wrong. Well, Hayes said finally, that could have gone better. Reed sat down heavily in his chair. I think we may have a problem. Neither of them knew that in the alien ship above, Commander Thrix was already sending urgent messages to the Galactic Federation. The peaceful aliens had seen human sports and completely misunderstood what they were watching. To them, it looked like humanity was a species of violent savages who fought for pleasure. The great misunderstanding had begun. Commander Thrix paced back and forth across his ship's bridge, his pale hands clasped tightly behind his back. The silver metal floor reflected his worried face as he walked. 3 hours had passed since the meeting with the humans. but he could not stop thinking about what he had seen. The images of humans fighting each other for sport kept playing in his mind like a bad dream. "Science Officer Kala," he called out, his musical voice now sharp with concern. "I want you to begin a complete investigation of this human species. We need to know everything about them." Kala looked up from her workstation, her large silver eyes still wide with shock from the meeting. "Everything, Commander? That could take weeks?" "Then we start immediately," Thrix replied. "The Federation Council needs to know the truth about these creatures. If they are as violent as they appear, we may have made a terrible mistake in contacting them." Kala began typing commands into her computer. The screen filled with data streams and communication signals coming from Earth. "I am picking up thousands of transmissions from their planet. They seem to broadcast everything they do," Thrix said, moving to stand behind her chair. "Start with their historical records. I want to know how long they have been fighting." The first thing Kala found was a documentary about something called World War II. She and Thrix watched in growing horror as the screen showed massive armies, tanks rolling across fields and planes dropping bombs on cities. The narrator spoke calmly about millions of dead soldiers and civilians. "Millions," Thrix whispered, his voice barely audible. "They killed millions of their own kind." The documentary showed footage of concentration camps, destroyed cities, and endless rows of grave markers. Kala had to turn away from the screen when they showed the aftermath of nuclear bombs. The peaceful Altani had never seen such destruction. "Commander," Kala said, her voice shaking, "they have weapons that can destroy entire cities. They actually use them against each other." Thrix felt his legs grow weak. He sat down in his command chair and stared at the screen. "Continue the investigation. We need to know more." Over the next several hours, Kala uncovered more and more evidence of human violence. She found records of wars that lasted for years, conflicts that spanned continents, and battles where hundreds of thousands died in single days. Every time period seemed to have its own wars, its own weapons, its own reasons for fighting. "Look at this," Kala said, pulling up another screen. "They have schools dedicated to teaching warfare, places called military academies, where they train their young to become better fighters." Thrix watched as the screen showed soldiers marching in formation, learning to use weapons, and practicing battle tactics. The humans seemed to approach war like a science, studying it and perfecting it over thousands of years. "Here is something called The Art of War," Kala continued. "It is a book written thousands of years ago about how to fight and win battles. But look, Commander, they still study it today in their military schools." The screen showed pages from the ancient text filled with strategies for defeating enemies and controlling territory. Thrix could not understand how a species could spend so much time and energy learning how to hurt others. "Oh, what kind of creatures are these?" he asked himself. "They make war into an art form." Kala discovered that humans had fought in every possible environment. They had battles in frozen wastelands, burning deserts, thick jungles, and even underwater. They created special equipment for each type of fighting and developed tactics for every situation. "Commander, they do not just fight on their planet," Kala said, her voice growing more worried. "Look at these transmissions. They're planning to fight in space." The screen showed human military exercises in zero-gravity, space-based weapons, platforms, and detailed plans for defending their solar system. To the peaceful aliens, it looked like humans were preparing to bring their violent ways to the stars. "They are already thinking about galactic warfare," Thrix said, standing up from his chair. "We must warn the Federation immediately." Ow. But before he could send the message, Kala made an even more disturbing discovery. She had been monitoring human entertainment, broadcasts, and found something that terrified her beyond anything else they had seen. "Commander, you need to see this," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "They make pretend stories about fighting aliens." The screen filled with scenes from human science fiction movies. Humans with advanced weapons fought against various alien species. The movies showed humans as brave warriors who always found a way to win, no matter how powerful their enemies seemed. Thrix watched as human soldiers battled insect-like aliens, robot armies, and even other humanoid species. In every movie, the humans won through cleverness, determination, and superior fighting ability. The aliens were always portrayed as the invaders, while humans were the defenders fighting for their survival. They've already imagined fighting, us Thrix said, his voice filled with dread. These are not just random stories. They are training materials. They are preparing their people for alien contact by showing them how to fight us. Kala found dozens of these movies and television shows. Humans fighting aliens in space battles, on alien planets, and even on Earth itself. The humans always seemed to know exactly what to do, as if they'd been planning for alien contact their entire lives.
Look at this one, Kala said, showing a movie about space marines.
They have detailed plans for fighting on different types of alien worlds. They know how to adapt their tactics for any environment. The movie showed human soldiers with advanced armor and weapons, moving through alien landscapes with military precision. They worked together as a team, used advanced technology, and never gave up even when outnumbered. Thrix felt a cold fear growing in his chest. They are not just violent, they're smart about their violence. They plan, they adapt, they learn. From every battle, investigation continued through the night. Kala found human video games where players practiced fighting aliens, books about galactic warfare, and even children's toys that looked like space weapons. Everything seemed designed to prepare humans for cosmic conflict. Commander Kala said, pulling up another transmission. I am receiving signals about something called Operation Red Storm. It appears to be happening right now. The screen showed military communications between different human nations. We're coordinating a massive exercise involving millions of soldiers, advanced weapons, and complex battle plans. To the aliens watching, it looked like the entire human planet was preparing for war. This is not a game like their sports, Thrix said, studying the tactical displays. This is real military preparation on a scale we have never seen. The exercise covered multiple continents and involved every type of human military unit. Ships, planes, tanks, and soldiers all moved according to a master plan that demonstrated incredible organizational ability. The humans coordinated their forces with a precision that impressed and terrified the watching aliens. They can organize their entire planet for warfare, Kala observed. Every nation is participating. This is not the behavior of a peaceful species. Thrix realized that everything they had thought about humans was wrong. The peaceful farmers and small towns were just a small part of human civilization. The real humans were warriors who had been perfecting the art of combat for thousands of years. An emergency transmission to the Federation Council, Thrix ordered. Maximum priority. We have discovered that the humans are not a peaceful species. They are the most dangerous warriors we have ever encountered. As Kala prepared the transmission, Thrix continued watching the human military exercise. The coordination, the advanced technology, and the sheer scale of the operation convinced him that humans were already preparing to expand beyond their planet. Tell the Council that we may have accidentally invited a species of conquerors into our peaceful galaxy, Thrix said, and they have been preparing for this moment for their entire history. The message went out across the galaxy, carrying news that would panic every peaceful species in the Federation. The Altani had discovered what they believed was the truth about humanity, but they had completely misunderstood what they were seeing. The humans were not preparing to conquer the galaxy. They were simply doing what humans had always done, preparing for the unknown and training to defend themselves. But the aliens did not understand this. To them, humanity looked like a species of perfect warriors who were about to bring their violent ways to the stars. Great panic was about to begin. The emergency message from Commander Thrix traveled across the galaxy at faster than light speed, reaching the Federation Council chambers on the planet Centros Prime within 6 hours. High Chancellor Norex, a tall being with 4 arms and crystal-like skin, read the report 3 times before calling an emergency session. The Great Assembly Hall filled quickly as representatives from all 47 member species gathered. The air buzzed with nervous energy as beings of different shapes and sizes took their seats. Some floated in spheres of gas, others stood on multiple legs, and a few existed as pure energy contained in special chambers. Fellow beings of the Federation, Chancellor Norix announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. We face a crisis unlike any in our peaceful history. The species we believe to be gentle farmers appear to be the most dangerous warriors our galaxy has ever seen. A wave of shocked murmurs spread through the assembly. The Zeridian representative, whose people were known for their logical minds, stood up on his 6 thin legs. Chancellor, surely there must be some mistake. Our initial observations showed a peaceful agricultural society. That is what we all believed, Norix replied. But new evidence suggests we observed only a small part of their civilization. Commander Thrix has sent detailed reports that paint a very different picture. The main display screen lit up with images from Earth. The assembled aliens watched in growing horror as scenes of human warfare filled the chamber. Ancient battles with swords and shields, modern conflicts with tanks and jets, and nuclear explosions that turned cities into ash. They have been fighting for their entire recorded history, Norix continued. They have developed weapons capable of destroying planets, and they have actually used them against their own kind. What does this tell us about what they might do? 2 other species? The aquatic Narathi representative spoke through a translation device from her water-filled chamber. These images show terrible destruction. But perhaps they have learned from their mistakes and become more peaceful. Unfortunately, no, Norix said, switching to more recent footage. They continue to prepare for war even now. They have military schools, they study ancient battle strategies, and they regularly conduct massive training exercises involving their entire planet. The crystal beings called the Lumathai flickered with nervous light patterns. Their spokesperson transmitted a message through pure thought. If they fight among themselves with such intensity, what will they do when they encounter other species? Construct Collective, mechanical beings who communicated through electronic signals, sent a burst of data across the chamber. Our analysis of human tactical capabilities shows unprecedented adaptability. They have fought successfully in every environment on their planet. They appear capable of learning and adapting to any situation. Fear began to spread through the assembly like a disease. The peaceful species had lived together in harmony for thousands of years, sharing knowledge and resources without conflict. The idea of a warrior race joining their community was beyond their understanding. There is more, Chancellor Norix said grimly. The humans have been creating entertainment that shows them fighting alien species. They have detailed scenarios for space warfare, galactic conquest, and battles on alien worlds. They appear to have been planning for interstellar conflict their entire time. The screen showed clips from human science fiction movies and television shows. The aliens watched themselves being portrayed as invaders while humans fought back. With incredible determination and skill, every story seemed to end with human victory through superior tactics and unbreakable will. The ethereal council representative, a being of pure thought energy, projected its concerns directly into the minds of all present. These are not random fantasies. These are training materials. They are preparing their population for galactic warfare by showing them how to defeat us. Panic began to take hold of the assembly. The gentle ones, small furry creatures who had never known violence, huddled together in their section and made soft crying sounds. The plant-based Verdani rustled their leaves in distress, while the gaseous nebula folk swirled in agitated patterns within their containment fields. We must consider our options, Chancellor Norix announced, trying to maintain order. The human delegation believes they are here for peaceful contact, but the evidence suggests they may be scouting our defenses. Admiral Voss of the Federation Defense Force stood up from his seat. The old warrior belonged to the Titan race, large beings who had given up warfare centuries ago, but still maintained the Federation's small peacekeeping fleet. If the humans are as dangerous as these reports suggest, we may need to consider defensive measures. What kind of measures? The healer representative whose people dedicated their lives to helping others. Surely we cannot be talking about violence. We are a peaceful federation, Admiral Voss replied. But we have always maintained the ability to protect ourselves if necessary. If the humans are planning to conquer the galaxy, we must be ready to defend our worlds. The debate that followed was unlike anything in Federation history. The first time in 1,000 years, peaceful species were discussing the possibility of war. Some argued for immediate defensive action, while others wanted to try continued diplomacy. The Zeridian logicians ran quick calculations on their portable computers. Based on human population, technology level, and demonstrated tactical ability, they could potentially conquer the entire Federation within 200 standard years. This prediction sent another wave of panic through the assembly. The butterfly people, delicate beings who lived on flower worlds, began leaving the chamber in fear. The rock speakers, ancient stone beings who moved very slowly, started the long process of returning to their home worlds to warn their people. "I propose we begin secret preparations," Admiral Voss said. "We need to quietly move our fleets into defensive positions and develop new technologies to counter human tactics." The aquatic Narathi agreed immediately. "My people will begin sealing our ocean worlds. If the humans are as adaptable as they appear, they will eventually learn to fight underwater as well." The crystal Lumathi flickered in agreement. "We shall develop new camouflage technologies to hide our crystal cities. Perhaps if they cannot find us, they will move on to other targets." Chancellor Norix raised all four of his arms for silence. "Then it is decided. We will begin quiet defensive preparations while maintaining the appearance of normal diplomatic relations. The humans must not know that we have discovered their true nature." Across the galaxy, the panic spread as each species received word of the human threat. The forest dwellers began moving deeper into their jungle worlds. The sky dancers, who lived in the clouds of gas giant planets, started building hidden cities in the upper atmospheres where they hoped humans could not reach them. The mechanical construct collective began designing new weapons specifically to counter what they believed were human advantages. They created faster ships, stronger shields, and weapon systems that could adapt to changing tactics. Every design was based on their fear of human military capability. On the peaceful garden world of Serenity, the flower children began digging underground shelters for the first time in their species' history. On the ice world of Eternal Winter, the crystal builders started creating defensive walls around their beautiful ice cities. The most advanced species, the mind walkers who could travel through space using only their thoughts, began exploring distant galaxies where they might flee. If the humans proved unstoppable, even they, with all their mental powers, feared what they had heard about human determination and tactical skill. Meanwhile, completely unaware of the growing crisis, Ambassador Reed and General Hayes continued their diplomatic meetings on Harmony Station. They shared human art, music, and literature with the few aliens who remained to speak with them. Reed noticed that the aliens seemed nervous and distracted, but he assumed they were simply adjusting to the idea of a new species joining the Federation. "I think the meetings are going well," Reed told Hayes over dinner in their quarters. "What?" "Aliens seem very interested in our culture, though they ask a lot of questions about our military history." Hayes nodded, but she had noticed something troubling. The number of alien ships near the station has increased significantly over the past few days. They claim it is for routine patrol duties, but I have never seen so many ships in one area. Neither human realized that those ships were the beginning of the largest military buildup in Federation history, and fear had taken hold of the peaceful galaxy. And 47 species were preparing for a war that they believed was inevitable. The great misunderstanding was growing worse with each passing day, and both sides were moving toward a conflict that neither actually wanted. Admiral Voss stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching through the main viewing window as hundreds of Federation ships assembled in the darkness beyond Earth's moon. The massive fleet stretched as far as he could see, representing every member species of the Federation. Never before had so many peaceful beings gathered for war. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving the final transmission from Earth. The humans are conducting something called Operation Red Storm. It involves their entire planet." Voss turned away from the window, his large frame casting shadows across the bridge. As one of the few remaining warrior species in the Federation, the Titans had been chosen to lead the defensive fleet. But even Voss, who had studied ancient military tactics, felt nervous about facing the humans. "Show me," he ordered. The main screen lit up with intercepted human communications. Military bases across Earth were coordinating the largest training exercise in human history. Satellites tracked movement of troops, ships, and aircraft as they took positions across multiple continents. To the watching aliens, it looked like the entire human species was preparing for interstellar invasion. "Look at this coordination," the communications officer said, his voice filled with worry. "Every human nation is working together. They have unified their entire planet for this operation." Voss studied the tactical displays showing human military movements. Ships moved across Earth's oceans, aircraft filled the skies, and ground forces positioned themselves with mathematical precision. The level of organization impressed him, but it also confirmed his worst fears about human military capability. "Sir," another officer called out, "we are detecting massive energy signatures from the human planet. They appear to be powering up weapon systems we have never seen before." On Earth, Operation Red Storm was proceeding exactly as planned. General Hayes stood in the command center, watching as forces from dozens of nations worked together to test their ability to respond to theoretical threats. The exercise was designed to simulate defense against asteroid impacts, natural disasters, and other emergencies that might require global coordination. "All units report ready," Colonel Davis announced from his station. "Phase 1 of the exercise can begin on your command, General." Hayes nodded and pressed the activation button. Across the planet, military units began moving according to the exercise plan. Fighter jets launched from air bases, naval vessels sailed toward designated positions, and ground forces deployed with practiced efficiency. The humans had no idea that their peaceful training exercise was being watched by terrified aliens who interpreted every movement as preparation for galactic conquest. When human satellites adjusted their positions for better communication during the exercise, the aliens saw it as deployment of space-based weapons. When human ships changed course to new positions, the aliens saw it as practice for interstellar fleet movements. "Phase 1 complete," Colonel Davis reported. "All units in position and ready for Phase 2. In space above, Admiral Voss watched the human movements with growing alarm. The speed and efficiency of their deployment convinced him that the humans had been planning this for years. Every ship, every aircraft, every soldier moved with purpose and precision that spoke of extensive preparation. "They are not just conducting an exercise," Voss told his bridge crew. "They are demonstrating their power. They want us to see what they can do." Chancellor Norix's voice came over the communication system from the Federation command ship. "Admiral, we have received reports that human energy readings are increasing. They may be preparing to activate their planet-destroying weapons." Voss felt his heart sink. The peaceful Federation had hoped to contain the human threat through a show of force. But if the humans were already powering up their most dangerous weapons, the situation was becoming desperate. "All ships, raise shields and prepare defensive positions," Voss ordered. "If the humans launch an attack, we must be ready to protect ourselves." On Earth, General Hayes noticed unusual readings on her space monitoring equipment. "Colonel, are you seeing these energy signatures near the moon? It looks like there are a lot of ships out there." Colonel Davis checked his instruments and frowned. "General, I am reading over 1,000 vessels in Earth's orbital space." "That is impossible. We only have about 50 ships and stations up there." Hayes felt a cold chill run down her spine. "Get me Ambassador Reed immediately, and signal all units to halt the exercise. We may have a problem." The sudden stop of human military movement sent panic through the alien fleet. To them, it looked like the humans had detected their presence and were now preparing for immediate battle. The fact that all human forces stopped moving at exactly the same moment seemed to prove that humanity had incredible military discipline and communication systems. "Sir," the alien communications officer reported to Admiral Voss, "all human military units have stopped moving. They appear to be waiting for orders." "This is it," Voss said grimly. "They know we are here. They are deciding whether to attack or negotiate." Ambassador Reed arrived at the military command center within minutes of Hayes's call. His face was pale as he looked at the sensor readings showing the massive alien fleet positioned near Earth. "How many ships?" Reed asked, though he dreaded the answer. "Our best count is over 1,500 vessels," Hayes replied. Some of them are larger than anything we have ever built. This is not a diplomatic mission, Ambassador. This looks like an invasion fleet. Reed stared at the tactical display, trying to understand what had gone wrong. 3 days ago, the aliens had seemed friendly and interested in peaceful contact. Now they had brought the largest fleet in galactic history to Earth's doorstep. "Get me a communication channel to their command ship," Reed ordered. "We need to find out what is happening before this gets worse." The communication came through within minutes. Chancellor Norix appeared on the main screen, his forearms spread. Wide in what the humans did not realize was a gesture of surrender. "People of Earth," Norix said, his voice filled with sadness and fear. "We have come to prevent the spread of violence throughout our peaceful galaxy. We know of your warrior nature and your plans for galactic conquest." Reed felt confused and angry. "Chancellor, what are you talking about? We have no plans for conquest. We came to you in friendship." "Please do not insult our intelligence," Norix replied. "We have observed your military preparations, your training exercises, and your entertainment that shows you fighting alien species. We know you have been preparing for this moment for thousands of years." Hayes stepped up beside Reed. "Chancellor, I think there has been a serious misunderstanding. Operation Red Storm is a training exercise designed to help us work together in emergencies. We are not preparing to attack anyone." But the aliens did not believe her. On their ships, they could see human military forces still in position, ready to move at a moment's notice. They had watched human war movies and seen human history. To them, everything pointed to a species that lived for conflict and was now ready to bring that conflict to the stars. "We offer you this choice, Chancellor," Norix said formally. "Agree to remain on your planet and limit your expansion, and we will allow you to live in peace. Refuse, and we will be forced to defend our worlds from your inevitable aggression." The ultimatum hung in the air like a dark cloud. Reed realized that somehow, the peaceful first contact had turned into a standoff between two forces that neither understood nor trusted the other. Earth's military was mobilized and ready to defend their planet. The alien fleet was positioned to attack if they felt threatened. Both sides believed they were acting in self-defense. Both sides were convinced the other was planning to attack, and neither side understood that they were moments away from starting a war that nobody actually wanted. General Reed said quietly, "Prepare all our defenses. I hope we can talk our way out of this, but if we cannot, we need to be ready." Hayes nodded and began giving orders to her staff. Cross-Earth human forces received new instructions to prepare for possible combat. In space, the alien fleet saw this activity and interpreted it as confirmation that the humans were about to attack. The great misunderstanding had reached its breaking point. The galaxy held its breath as two civilizations prepared for a battle that would change everything. Dr. Maria Santos sat in her small office at the University of California, staring at her computer screen with growing confusion. As Earth's leading expert on alien cultures, she had been monitoring the communications between the human delegation and the Federation. Something was very wrong, but she could not understand what. "The behavioral patterns do not match," she said to herself, scrolling through weeks of recorded alien transmissions. "They say we are violent, but their fleet positioning is defensive, not aggressive." 3,000 miles away, on the Federation flagship, research analyst Quinn was having similar doubts. The young alien had been assigned to monitor human civilian broadcasts while the military experts focused on warfare transmissions. What Quinn had found did not match the reports about human violence. "This makes no sense," Quinn whispered, looking at footage of human rescue workers pulling people from a collapsed building. "Why would a warrior species risk their lives to save strangers?" Dr. Santos had been studying the alien fleet formations through telescope data. The ships were arranged in protective circles around their larger vessels, with weapons pointed outward toward potential threats. It was the formation of a species that feared attack, not one preparing to invade. At the same time, Quinn was watching news broadcasts from Earth that showed humans responding to a major earthquake in Asia. Rescue teams from dozens of countries had flown across the world to help dig survivors from the rubble. Doctors, engineers, and volunteers worked together without being asked, without being paid, simply because other humans needed help. "Commander Thrix," Quinn called across the research station, I think we may have made an error in our analysis. Thrix looked up from his tactical displays, his pale face still tight with worry. What do you mean, analyst? I have been watching human civilian transmissions, Quinn explained, bringing up the earthquake footage on the main screen. Look at this behavior. These humans are traveling great distances to help strangers in danger. This is not the action of a violent warrior species. Thrix studied the images with interest. He watched human rescue workers crawling into dangerous collapsed buildings to search for survivors. He saw doctors treating injured people regardless of their nationality or race. He observed volunteers sharing food and water with earthquake victims they had never met before. Perhaps this is a trick, Thrix said, though his voice carried less certainty than before. Maybe they help their own kind to make them stronger for fighting others. But Commander Quinn replied, pulling up more footage, they are not helping. Their own kind? Look at the rescue workers. They come from different countries, different races, different cultures. Some of these nations were at war with each other in the past, but now they work together to save lives. Dr. Santos was reaching similar conclusions from her analysis of alien behavior. She had noticed that, despite their claims about human aggression, the aliens had never actually threatened to attack. Their ultimatum offered humans the choice to stay on Earth in peace. A truly aggressive species would have simply attacked without warning. They are afraid of us, she realized, speaking to her empty office. They are not planning to conquer us. They think we are planning to conquer them. She reached for her phone and dialed the emergency number for the diplomatic mission. Is Dr. Santos at UC Berkeley? I need to speak with Ambassador Reed immediately. I think I know what is causing this crisis. Meanwhile, Quinn had found something that changed everything. While searching through human entertainment broadcasts, Quinn discovered something the military analysts had missed. Between the war movies and action films were thousands of other stories that showed a completely different side of humanity. Commander, look at this, Quinn said, displaying a collection of human movies and television shows. They do not only make entertainment about fighting, they also make stories about love, friendship, sacrifice, and helping others. The screen showed clips from romantic comedies, family dramas, and inspirational films. Quinn had found stories about humans who gave up their own happiness to help their children, teachers who dedicated their lives to educating others, and doctors who traveled to poor countries to heal the sick. And look at this, Quinn continued, showing footage from human space programs. When they imagine traveling to the stars, they do not always imagine conquest. Many of their stories are about exploration, discovery, and meeting new friends among the stars. Thrix watched scenes from human science fiction that showed peaceful contact with aliens, cooperation between species and humans working together with other beings to solve problems. These stories were completely different from the war movies that had terrified the Federation. Why do they have both kinds of stories? Thrix asked, genuinely confused. Stories about fighting and stories about peace? Maybe, Quinn said slowly, because they are capable of both. Maybe they fight when they must, but prefer peace when they can. At that moment, Dr. Santos finally reached Ambassador Reed on his emergency line. Ambassador, I think the aliens are afraid of us because they misunderstood our nature. They saw our capacity for violence, but missed our reasons for fighting. What do you mean? Reed asked, his voice tense with the strain of the crisis. They are a peaceful species, Dr. Santos explained. They have probably never known war or conflict. When they saw our sports, our movies, our military exercises, they interpreted everything as evidence that we live for violence. They do not understand that we fight to protect what we love, not because we enjoy hurting others. Reed felt a spark of hope for the first time in hours. How do we make them understand? Show them the whole truth, Dr. Santos replied. Shh. Then why we fight, not just how we fight? Reed immediately contacted General Hayes and explained Dr. Santos's theory. Within minutes, they were preparing a new transmission to send to the alien fleet. This time, they would show the Federation the complete picture of humanity. The transmission began with scenes that the aliens had already seen. Human soldiers in combat, weapons firing, explosions, and destruction. But then, it continued with something new. It showed the same soldiers returning home to hug their children. It showed them building schools and hospitals in war-torn countries, showed human warriors using their strength to protect the weak and defend the innocent. This is why we fight, Ambassador Reed's voice explained over the images. It's not for conquest or glory, but to protect our families, our friends, and our way of life. We do not enjoy violence, but we will use it when we must to defend what matters to us. The transmission showed human peacekeepers serving in dangerous areas around the world, keeping warring groups apart so that civilians could live safely. It showed human soldiers distributing food and medicine to refugees, building bridges and roads in poor countries, and rescuing people from natural disasters. Commander Thrix and research analyst Quinn watched together as the true nature of humanity was revealed. They saw that humans were indeed capable of incredible violence, but that this violence was controlled, directed, and used only when necessary. They saw that humans preferred to build rather than destroy, to heal rather than harm, to create rather than conquer. We have been fools, Thrick said quietly, his voice filled with shame. We saw their strength but not their heart. We saw their weapons but not their wisdom. The transmission continued with messages from human leaders around the world. Presidents, prime ministers, and generals all spoke with one voice. They explained that humanity had learned through bitter experience that war was sometimes necessary, but never desirable. They had developed their military strength not to attack others, but to defend themselves and to protect those who could not protect themselves. We dream of the stars not as conquerors, but as explorers. One human leader said, "We want to learn from other species to share our knowledge and our friendship. We will fight if we must, but we would much rather build a future together." Chancellor Norix received the transmission on the Federation flagship and watched it. With growing understanding and embarrassment, the massive alien fleet had gathered to defend against a threat that had never existed. Humanity was not a species of mindless warriors. They were protectors who had the wisdom to know when to fight and when to make peace. All ships stand down from combat alert, Norix ordered across the fleet, prepared to resume diplomatic positions. Admiral Voss felt relief wash over him as the crisis began to ease. "Sir, the human fleet is also powering down their weapons. It appears both sides are ready to step back from conflict." Within hours, new meetings were arranged. This time, the aliens came with understanding instead of fear. They learned that human sports were games with rules and safety measures, not preparation for real violence. They discovered that human military exercises were defensive training, not practice for galactic conquest. They realized that human entertainment showed many different aspects of human nature, not just the violent ones. "We owe you an apology," Chancellor Norix said to Ambassador Reed and General Hayes during their new meeting. "We judged your species based on incomplete information. We saw your capacity for war, but failed to understand your dedication to peace." Reed smiled for the first time in days. "We understand your concern, Chancellor. If I had seen only your military capabilities without understanding your peaceful nature, I might have reacted the same way." The crisis that had brought to civilizations to the brink of war ended with understanding and friendship. The Galactic Federation officially welcomed humanity as full members, and human military advisors eventually became some of the most respected peacekeepers in the galaxy. Years later, the incident became known as the Great Misunderstanding. Taught in schools across the galaxy as a lesson about the importance of seeing the complete truth rather than just part of it. Humanity earned a reputation as fierce warriors, but also as wise protectors who used their strength to defend the innocent and maintain peace. The aliens learned that strength and compassion could exist together in the same species. The humans learned that their capacity for violence, properly understood and controlled, could be a force for good in a galaxy that sometimes needed protection from those who would cause harm. The galaxy became a safer and more prosperous place because two very different types of beings learned to understand and respect each other. Despite their different approaches to conflict and peace,